Maya Chen sat in her Tesla Model 3, hands gripping the steering wheel as she stared at the imposing glass facade of Sterling Industries. 3 years ago, she had been rejected for a junior engineering position at this very company. Today, she was about to walk through those same doors as its new owner. The irony wasn't lost on her. The woman they deemed not a cultural fit was now holding the keys to their future. But this story isn't about revenge. It's about resilience, vision, and the extraordinary power of turning rejection into rocket fuel for success. You see, sometimes the biggest favor someone can do for you is to underestimate you completely. Because when they close one door, they force you to build your own building. And that's exactly what Maya Chen did. Born to Taiwanese immigrants who ran a small electronics repair shop in San Francisco, Maya grew up surrounded by circuit boards and the smell of solder. Her parents sacrificed everything for her education, working 16-hour days so Maya could attend the best schools. When she earned a full scholarship to MIT for electrical engineering and computer science, her mother cried for 3 straight days from overwhelming pride. At MIT, Maya wasn't just another brilliant student. She was the brilliant student, who saw solutions where others saw impossibilities. Her senior thesis on adaptive manufacturing systems using AI caught the attention of several tech giants. But Maya had her sights set on revolutionizing traditional manufacturing. That's what brought her to Sterling Industries in the fall of 2021. Sterling Industries had been a fixture in the Bay Area's manufacturing landscape for 47 years, specializing in precision components for aerospace and automotive industries. When founder Robert Sterling passed away in 2019, his son Richard took over with all the confidence of inherited success and none of the vision that built the empire. Richard Sterling was everything you'd expect from a second-generation CEO who'd never had to prove himself. 45 years old, perpetually tan from weekend golf games, he ran Sterling Industries like it was still 1985, resistant to change and suspicious of anything that threatened his comfortable status quo. But beneath the polished surface, Sterling Industries was struggling. Younger, more agile competitors were eating into their market share. Their processes were outdated, their response times sluggish, and their innovation pipeline had been dry for years. Maya walked into Sterling Industries on October 15, 2021, carrying a portfolio with her MIT credentials, published papers, and a recommendation calling her the most innovative mind I've encountered in 20 years. She had developed specific solutions for Sterling's problems, including an AI-driven predictive maintenance system that could reduce equipment downtime by 30%. When Richard Sterling emerged from his office, Maya's first impression was of a man who commanded rooms through presence rather than competence. "Ms. Chen, is it?" he said, extending a hand. "I have to be honest, I was expecting someone different." In his office, Richard glanced at her resume. Very impressive for someone so young. MIT, internships at some big names. But let me ask you something more important. Do you think you'd fit in here? This is a traditional company with traditional values. Absolutely respect the company's legacy, Mr. Sterling, but I believe my ideas could help Sterling Industries expand significantly. If I could show you my presentation— Here's the thing, Richard interrupted, his tone becoming dismissive. We need someone who understands our culture. Our guys in manufacturing won't respond well to someone coming in trying to change everything with fancy computer algorithms. Mr. Sterling, I grew up in my parents' electronics shop. I understand manufacturing from the ground up. Richard smiled coldly. There's a difference between fixing radios and running industrial operations. Look, you're clearly very smart, but I'm not sure you're what we're looking for. We need someone with more traditional experience. Maya sat stunned. Could you clarify what you mean by traditional experience? My qualifications specifically match your job posting. Well, we're looking for someone who's more of a cultural fit, someone who understands how we do business here. The euphemisms barely disguised the real issue. It wasn't about her qualifications, it was about who she was. I see, Maya said quietly, closing her portfolio. And you've determined I'm not a cultural fit based on what exactly? Look, Maya, this isn't personal. We just need someone who's going to mesh well with our existing team. Maybe try some of the newer tech companies, they might be more open to your approach. Maya stood up, dignity intact despite the humiliation burning in her chest. Mr. Sterling, you're rejecting my application without reviewing my presentation because you don't think I'll mesh well with your team? I'm trying to save us both some time here. You're obviously talented, but this just isn't the right fit. Maya walked to the door, then turned back. Mr. Sterling, I think you're making a significant mistake, but I respect your decision. That evening, Maya called her mother. Ma, he didn't even look at my work. I was perfect for that job, and he rejected me because of who I am. Her mother, Lee, was quiet, then spoke with the weight of her own experiences. Maya, sometimes people cannot see past their own fear, but their blindness is not your limitation. What if this happens everywhere? What if no one will give me a chance? Then you make your own chance, Lee said firmly. You are Chen family. We don't wait for permission to succeed. By dawn, determination was crystallizing in Maya's chest. Richard Sterling had shown her something important. Some doors would never open for her, no matter how qualified she was. So she would build her own door. The idea for NexGen Systems came during a run through Golden Gate Park. Instead of convincing traditional manufacturers to adopt new technology, what if she created a new kind of manufacturing company from the ground up, designed around AI and automation? Maya spent 2 weeks developing her business plan. She would create a manufacturing services company that used AI-driven processes to provide faster, cheaper, more precise production than traditional methods. Instead of selling technology to companies like Sterling Industries, she would compete with them directly. Her MIT thesis advisor, Dr. Elizabeth Warren, was outraged about the Sterling rejection. Maya, that's exactly the thinking that's killing American manufacturing. These dinosaurs can't see past their prejudices. Dr. Warren introduced Maya to James Rodriguez, a former Tesla manufacturing engineer looking for the right opportunity. Their first meeting lasted 6 hours, leading to NexGen Systems' revolutionary business model: manufacturing contracts with performance guarantees. If they couldn't deliver faster and cheaper than traditional methods, clients paid nothing. Maya and James incorporated NexGen Systems in January 2022. Their first office was James's garage. Their first employees were 2 recent engineering graduates working for equity, and their first facility was a 5,000-square-foot space in an industrial park. The first 6 months were brutal. Maya worked 18-hour days, developing AI systems, courting clients, and raising capital. She lived on ramen noodles and determination. The technical challenges were immense, but the emotional challenges were harder. Every rejection felt personal. The breakthrough came in June 2022. Maya had been working on predictive scheduling for 3 months without success. Then, at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, she had an insight. Instead of predicting problems, create optimal conditions that made problems irrelevant. She coded for 14 straight hours until she had a system that optimized manufacturing workflows with stunning accuracy. 40% faster production, 60% less waste, 90% fewer quality defects. Their first major client was Rodriguez Aerospace. The owner, Maria Rodriguez, offered them a contract: 10,000 precision housing units in 8 weeks instead of the usual 12. Maya promised 6 weeks. For 6 weeks, Maya lived at the facility. The AI system performed perfectly, continuously adjusting production schedules, predicting maintenance needs, and optimizing quality control. When they delivered every component on time with perfect quality, word spread through the industry like wildfire. By the end of 2022, NexGen had grown to 47 employees, moved into a 50,000 square foot facility, and generated $8 million in revenue. In early 2023, Maya pivoted to licensing her AI platform to other manufacturers. Companies using NexGen's technology saw 25–35% productivity improvements within 3 months. Soon she was receiving inquiries from major manufacturers, including Sterling Industries. The email arrived in March 2023. Ms. Chen, I understand your company has developed interesting manufacturing optimization technology. We might be interested in discussing a potential partnership. Could we set up a call? Richard.Sterling@sterlingindustries.com. Maya stared at the email for 5 minutes before laughing. The same man who dismissed her as not a cultural fit was now asking for her help. During their call, Richard's tone was completely different, respectful, even deferential. He explained Sterling's challenges, admitted they were behind on technology, and asked about NexGen's capabilities. Maya listened carefully, taking notes on what he was saying and what he wasn't saying. The desperation in his voice was barely concealed. Mr. Sterling, why NexGen? There are other manufacturing technology companies you could work with. Honestly, Maya, we've tried some of the other options. Nothing has delivered the results we're hearing about with your platform. We need something that works. And we need it fast. Maya smiled, remembering how he had dismissed her ideas 18 months earlier. I see. And you think our platform might be a good fit for your company culture? I think your technology could help us solve some significant challenges. I'd be happy to discuss a potential partnership, but I think this conversation would be more productive in person. Would you be available to visit our facility next week? When Richard toured NexGen's 100,000 square foot facility, buzzing with cutting-edge technology and employing over 200 people, Maya could see the shock in his eyes. Maya, this is impressive. When did you start this company? January 2022, about 3 months after our interview. Richard stopped walking. After our interview? That's right, your rejection helped me realize I needed to create my own vision. In Maya's office, Richard sat down heavily. Maya, I owe you an apology. I made a significant mistake in that interview. I appreciate that, Mr. Sterling, but that rejection was actually a gift. It forced me to prove what I was capable of. So what do you think? Can we work together to help Sterling Industries modernize? Maya had been planning her response for months. Mr. Sterling, I don't think a licensing partnership is what Sterling Industries needs. Richard's face fell. Are we too far behind? Not at all. But your problems aren't just technological. You need new leadership, new vision, new direction. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that Sterling Industries needs a new owner. I want to buy your company, Mr. Sterling. Richard stared in confusion. You want to buy my company? Your father's company. And yes, I do. Sterling Industries has good bones, great relationships, and decades of reputation. What it lacks is technological innovation and strategic vision. I can provide both. Maya, Sterling Industries isn't for sale. It's been in my family for almost 50 years. Richard, be honest. How long can you keep the company afloat without major changes? You called me because you're running out of options. Maya slid a document across the desk. This is a preliminary offer. I think you'll find it's quite reasonable. Richard's eyes widened at the number, 20% above Sterling's current market valuation. How is this possible? NexGen isn't just profitable, Richard. We're extremely profitable. This acquisition would allow us to scale our technology immediately across Sterling's customer base. 3 weeks later, Richard called with the shareholders' answer. They would accept her offer. The acquisition closed on October 15, 2024. Exactly 3 years after Maya's rejection interview. Wasn't saying. The desperation in his voice was barely concealed. Sterling Industries wasn't just interested in her technology. They needed it to survive. "Mr. Sterling," Maya said when Richard finished his pitch, "I appreciate you reaching out, but I have to ask, why NexGen? There are other manufacturing technology companies you could work with." Richard was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, Maya, can I call you Maya? We've tried some of the other options. Nothing has delivered the results we're hearing about with your platform. We need something that works, and we need it fast." Maya smiled, remembering how he had dismissed her ideas without even reviewing them 18 months earlier. "I see. And you think our platform might be a good fit for your company culture?" There was another pause. If Richard remembered his previous comments about cultural fit, he didn't acknowledge them. "I think your technology could help us solve some significant challenges." Maya made her decision. "Mr. Sterling, I'd be happy to discuss a potential partnership, but I think this conversation would be more productive in person. Would you be available to visit our facility next week?" Richard agreed immediately, probably too quickly for a good negotiator, but Maya didn't mind. She had learned that sometimes the best strategy is to let your opponent reveal exactly how desperate they are. Maya spent the week before Richard's visit preparing carefully. She wanted him to see not just what NexGen had accomplished, but what Sterling Industries could become, with the right vision and leadership. When Richard arrived at NexGen Systems facility, Maya could see the shock in his eyes. The last time he had seen her, she was a job applicant sitting across from his desk. Now she was giving him a tour of a 100,000-square-foot facility, buzzing with cutting-edge technology, and employing over 200 people. "Maya, this is impressive," Richard said as they walked through the production floor. "When did you say you started this company?" "January 2022, Maya replied calmly. "About 3 months after our interview." Richard stopped walking. The connection was finally clicking. "After our interview?" "That's right. Your rejection helped me realize that I didn't want to work for someone else's vision. I needed to create my own." The tour continued in relative silence, with Richard asking technical questions and Maya providing detailed answers. She could see him processing not just the technology, but the implications of what he was seeing. Finally, in Maya's office, Richard sat down heavily and looked at her directly. "Maya, I owe you an apology. I made a mistake in that interview. A significant mistake." Maya nodded graciously. "I appreciate that, Mr. Sterling. But I want you to know that rejection was actually a gift. It forced me to prove what I was capable of." "Well, you've certainly done that," Richard said, looking around at the awards and press coverage lining Maya's office walls. "So what do you think? Can we work together to help Sterling Industries modernize our operations?" Maya had been thinking about this moment for months, planning her response to this exact question. "Mr. Sterling, I've been studying your company's situation, and I don't think a licensing partnership is what Sterling Industries needs." Richard's face fell. "Oh, I see. Are we too far behind to benefit from your technology?" "Not at all," Maya said. "But your problems aren't just technological, they're structural. You need more than new software. You need new leadership, new vision, new direction." "What are you suggesting?" Maya took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been building toward for 2 years. "I'm suggesting that Sterling Industries doesn't need a technology partner. It needs a new owner." Richard stared at her in confusion. "I don't understand." "I want to buy Sterling Industries, Mr. Sterling, the whole company." The silence that followed was deafening. Richard's mouth opened and closed several times without producing sound. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "You want to buy my company?" "Your father's company," Maya corrected gently. "And yes, I do. I've done the analysis, Richard. Sterling Industries has good bones, great relationships with suppliers and customers, and decades of reputation in the industry. What it lacks is technological innovation and strategic vision. I can provide both." Richard was shaking his head slowly. "Maya, Sterling Industries isn't for sale. It's been in my family for almost 50 years. "I understand the emotional attachment," Maya said. But Richard, be honest with me. How long can you keep the company afloat without major changes? Your revenue is down, your market share is shrinking, and your competitors are leaving you behind. You called me because you're running out of options. The truth of Maya's words hung in the air between them. Richard stared out the window at NexGen's bustling facility, then back at Maya. Even if I wanted to consider it, he said slowly, Sterling Industries is worth far more than a 3-year-old startup could afford. Maya smiled. Richard, Sterling Industries is worth exactly what someone is willing to pay for it. And I'm willing to pay fair market value for a company with Sterling's assets and potential. She opened a folder and slid a document across the desk. This is a preliminary offer. Obviously, it would be subject to due diligence and negotiation, but I think you'll find it's quite reasonable. Richard looked at the number at the bottom of the page, and his eyes widened. Maya's offer was 20% above Sterling Industries' current market valuation, despite the company's declining performance. How is this possible? Richard asked. Where would you get this kind of capital? NexGen Systems isn't just profitable, Richard. We're extremely profitable. And we have investors who are very interested in expansion opportunities. This acquisition would allow us to scale our technology platform immediately across Sterling's existing customer base. Richard was quiet for a long time, studying the offer document. Maya waited patiently. She had learned that the most powerful thing you can do in a negotiation is give someone space to convince themselves. Finally, Richard looked up. Maya, I need time to think about this, and I need to discuss it with our other shareholders. Of course, Maya said, take all the time you need, but Richard, I want you to know that this offer has an expiration date. The manufacturing industry is changing rapidly, and companies that don't adapt are going to be left behind. Sterling Industries can be part of the future, or it can become a cautionary tale about what happens when you resist change. 3 weeks later, Richard called Maya with his answer. The shareholders had voted to accept her offer. Sterling Industries would become a wholly owned subsidiary of NexGen Systems, with Maya as CEO and Richard staying on as a consultant during the transition period. The acquisition closed on October 15, 2024. Exactly 3 years to the day after Maya's rejection interview. On her first day as CEO of Sterling Industries, Maya wore the same suit she had worn to her interview with Richard. She had kept it in her closet as a reminder of how far she had come. Patricia, the receptionist who had been kind to Maya during that first visit, was still at the front desk. When Maya walked in, Patricia's face lit up with recognition and amazement. Maya, oh my goodness, is it really you? I heard about the acquisition, but I couldn't believe it when they said the new CEO was, well, it's you. Maya smiled warmly. It's good to see you again, Patricia. I hope you'll stay on with the new management team. Are you kidding? I wouldn't miss this for the world. That young woman who came in here 3 years ago with such big dreams, and now look at you. You're going to do amazing things with this company. Maya's first all-hands meeting as CEO of Sterling Industries was unlike anything the company had ever experienced. Instead of speaking from behind the imposing podium in the main conference room, Maya stood in the middle of the manufacturing floor, surrounded by the workers who actually made the company run. I know many of you are wondering what changes are coming, Maya began, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. Everything is going to change. But here's what's not changing: our commitment to producing the highest quality components in the industry. She looked around at the faces surrounding her. Engineers, machinists, quality control specialists, administrative staff. Many of them looked skeptical, even worried. 3 years ago, I interviewed for a junior engineering position at this company. I was rejected, not because I wasn't qualified, but because the previous leadership couldn't see past their own limitations. Today, I'm standing here as your new CEO, not because I want revenge, but because I believe in what this company can become. Maya gestured toward the production equipment around them. Every machine on this floor, every process in this facility, every relationship with our customers, it all has value. But we're going to unlock potential that's been sitting dormant for years. She spent the next hour outlining her vision for Sterling Industries' future. The AI-driven manufacturing systems that had made NexGen successful would be gradually implemented across Sterling's operations. Workers would be retrained on new technologies, not replaced by them. The company would expand into new markets and new product categories. But most importantly, Sterling Industries would become a place where innovation was rewarded, where the best ideas won regardless of who suggested them, and where every employee had the opportunity to contribute to the company's success. I know change can be scary, Maya concluded, but I want you to know that I'm not here to tear down what Robert Sterling built. I'm here to build on that foundation and take this company places Robert never imagined possible. The applause that followed was tentative at first, then growing stronger as Maya's words sank in. These weren't empty corporate platitudes. This was a specific, actionable vision delivered by someone who had already proven she could execute on bold promises. 6 months after the acquisition, Sterling Industries was transformed. The AI systems Maya had developed were optimizing every aspect of production, resulting in the company's first profitable quarter in over 2 years. Employee satisfaction was at an all-time high, and the company was winning new contracts faster than they could handle them. Richard Sterling, true to the consulting agreement, had worked closely with Maya during the transition. What surprised everyone, including Richard himself, was how much he learned from the experience. "Maya," he said during one of their weekly meetings, "I owe you more than an apology. I owe you my gratitude. You didn't just save this company. You showed me what leadership actually looks like." Maya looked up from the production reports they were reviewing. "Richard, your father built something remarkable here. It just needed someone who could see its potential." "No," Richard said firmly. "It needed someone who wasn't limited by fear and prejudice. Someone who could see solutions instead of problems. I let my own insecurities nearly destroy what my father spent his life building." Maya appreciated Richard's honesty, but she was more interested in the future than relitigating the past. "The important thing is that Sterling Industries is thriving now. Your father would be proud of what we're accomplishing." As Maya sat in her Tesla in the Sterling Industries parking lot, exactly 3 years after her rejection, she thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. The scared, angry young woman who had been dismissed as not a cultural fit had become the CEO of the company that rejected her. But the real victory wasn't in proving Richard Sterling wrong. It was in proving to herself and to everyone who had ever been underestimated that limitations exist only in the minds of people who can't imagine a different future. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Saw the news article about the company turnaround. Your father and I are so proud, but we always knew you were destined for greatness." Maya smiled, thinking about all the 18-hour days, all the moments of doubt, all the times she had wanted to give up. Success wasn't just about intelligence or determination. It was about refusing to let other people's limitations become your own. She had learned something that every entrepreneur, every innovator, every person who had ever been told they didn't belong needed to understand. When someone closes a door on you, you don't need to knock harder. You build your own building. As Maya walked through the doors of Sterling Industries, her company now, she thought about all the other young women, all the other underestimated innovators, all the other dreamers who were probably sitting in rejection meetings at this very moment, being told they weren't the right fit. She hoped they would remember her story. She hoped they would understand that rejection isn't the end of the road. It's just the beginning of a different journey. And sometimes that different journey leads you to places more extraordinary than you ever imagined possible. The woman they said didn't belong now owned the building, and she was just getting started. If Maya's story has inspired you to pursue your own impossible dreams, to turn rejection into rocket fuel, or to refuse to let anyone else define your limitations? I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Share your own story of overcoming rejection, tag someone who needs to hear this message, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories of extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. Because the world needs more people who refuse to accept that things have to stay the way they've always been.